While I was doing research for another video, I was looking for statistics on cholesterol levels, and one of the basic statistics was very hard to come by. Stay tuned to find out about it. So here's a pretty fundamental question. What do we mean by high cholesterol? Is it based on population, like maybe the top 20% of the population has by definition high cholesterol? Is it based on recommendations either by the medical community or by big pharma? Well, when I tried finding the distribution of actual values in the US adult population, all I got was misdirection. You'll see over and over again this definition of cholesterol levels. High is 240 or more, borderline is 200 to 240. These are all in milligrams per deciliter. The Cleveland Clinic calls anything over 240 dangerous. And for those of you who are used to using millimoles per liter, here are the values for that. And according to the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control in the United States, 150 milligrams per deciliter or 3.9 millimoles per liter is the healthy level. But no matter how much I tried to find out what the actual measurements were in the US population, because that's the one that I was interested in, it was very difficult to find. Over and over again, I was given those desired ranges, almost like propaganda, hiding the actual data from us. One website, Medical News Today, told me that a typical range was 120 to 150 milligrams per deciliter, which is about 3.1 to 3.9 millimoles per liter for total. I'm not confusing with LDL, because for LDL they said it was 50 to 100 milligrams per deciliter, or 1.3 to about 2.6 millimoles per liter. Finally, I found one report, and it was based on 28,000 US adults, and it gave me this distribution. It's a bell curve, just what I would have expected. But you'll notice that the average level all seems to be at that 200, 5.1 or above. Borderline is just barely over the average. High is a bit to the right there. But is this yellow area really typical? That article in Medical News Today that said the typical range was in this yellow band, that was medically reviewed. That is far from being typical. And I have to ask, is there a reason that we're being told that that's typical? Is it so that 80% of us will think our cholesterol is too high? A little bit of food for thought there. I have one friend, for example, who had a level just over 200, around 5.1 millimoles per liter, 200 milligrams per deciliter, and he actually asked for a statin from his doctor. His doctor wasn't going to prescribe one for him, but his doctor said sure and wrote him a prescription for it because he was so convinced that having a level of 200 was in some way unusual. From this data, and I believe this data does make sense to me, and it's not specifically talking about statin therapy or anything like that, or even about risk or anything. Just the bell curve showing the distribution seems to be a pretty objective look at the data. And it tells me that levels center around this 5.1 or 200 milligrams per deciliter level. So this was a quick one, and I really don't have a conclusion of any kind. I had a lot of trouble finding this. I had to go into the third page of a Google search in order to find a link to this paper. And there's a link in the description. And it's logically possible that just because you have average, that it's not necessarily healthy. It could be unhealthy. The average level could be unhealthy. Just like if you had an obese population, the average BMI could be unhealthy. But logically, it could also be unhealthy because it's too low as much as because it's too high. We just can't tell from this particular piece of data. The population average is just that, a population average. And it really doesn't say anything about the general health of the population. It's just another data point for you to integrate into your philosophy on statin therapy. In my case, I see the implication that 50% of the population having borderline high or high cholesterol, that's a troublesome definition to me. If this is the same as it's always been historically, then it seems to me that high cholesterol is an invented disease. And if there has been a change in the population over the past few years, then I would look at our modern lifestyle as the cause. And in either case, changing it with drugs just goes against my personal values. I would look to lifestyle to improve the quality of my lipid profile rather than drugs to simply bring the numbers down. So I know this is a quick one. That's all I really have on this topic. I just thought it was interesting that it was so hard to find this data. And when I found it, it seemed like it was almost being hidden from us so that we could be convinced that, say, a level of 210 or 220 is somehow out of the norm, when it's perfectly within range of what's normal in the US population anyway. So that's all I have on this topic. If you appreciate this content, please like, share, subscribe, and comment on this or other topics you'd like me to cover. And if you haven't seen this video, I recommend you take a look at it now. Thanks for listening.